Hello everyone. Today we are going to continue with the course under the slide screen, Malnutrition and Community Health. We have already talked about nutritional deficiency diseases. In our previous lecture, we talked about the causes of protein energy malnutrition. What are the social economic factors which impact the causation of the protein energy malnutrition as such. The remaining parts, that is the symptoms of PEM, the prevention and the treatment strategies will be discussed in today's lecture. Right. So, like I said, there are a number of nutritional problems. Nutritional problems are basically those problems or deficiency disorders mainly which are in relation to deficiency of a particular nutrient in the body. Now, these nutritional problems not only can be caused due to the deficiency but can also be caused due to the excess or overindulgence of a particular nutrient in the diet or its overconsumption. So, you can either suffer from undernutrition or you may suffer from overnutrition as such. So, there are a class of disorders known as the nutritional disorders, which includes disorders such as protein energy malnutrition. We already talked about the causes or the associated diseases included in protein energy malnutrition, which includes Kwashiorkor, marasmus, its intermediate stage. Other than this, you have fluorosis, you have iodine deficiency, you have vitamin A deficiency, right? So, such type of disorders all will be coming under your nutritional problems. Like I said, we already talked about protein energy malnutrition, which in which mainly children under the age of 5 suffer from malnutrition. Whenever you are talking about malnutrition or specifically PEM, there is a energy or a protein intake deficiency, and there are various causes. Mainly, the major cause is the social causes, economic causes, that is socio-economic causes, in which due to illiteracy, poverty, ignorance, the children of a particular area or community are not fed with proper nutrients, and this leads to development of anemic conditions or protein energy malnutrition specifically in these areas. Other than this, there are post-related factors, age-related factors, which can also contribute to the causation of your protein energy malnutrition. So this is all what we have discussed in our previous class. Today's video or today's class will be mainly talking about what is the etiology of PEM, that is what is the prevalence of this particular disease or disorder in our country. We will be also talking about the symptoms of both Kwashiorkor, marasmus, and what are the basic preventive measures, prevention as well as treatment strategies which have been developed or devised by the Government of India. Also, there are a number of schemes which are associated for preventing PEM in young children as such. Right. So, we will start with the etiology of PEM. After watching this part of the video, we should have a basic understanding of what is the etiology of this particular deficiency disease. So, mainly in this part, in etiology, we will be talking about what are the main causes of death due to PEM in both primary protein energy malnutrition as well as secondary protein energy malnutrition, and we will also be talking about the prevalence of this particular disease in the world. Right. So, like I said, one of the major or the leading cause of death among young children under the age of 5 years is protein energy malnutrition. It can be classified into two types: your primary protein energy malnutrition or secondary protein energy malnutrition. So, whenever you are talking about primary protein energy malnutrition, usually protein plus energy intake is below the requirement for normal growth. To put this very briefly, each and every person or each and every individual or child below the age of 5 years will require certain amounts of essential nutrients. These nutrients include all the nutrients such as carbohydrates, proteins, fatty acids, lipids, vitamins, minerals. All this should be present in a balanced manner. Specifically, if there is deficiency of protein in the diet, this will lead to deficiency of energy as well. And due to this deficiency, what will happen? Growth retardation will take place. And this growth retardation is one of the major causes of death in children below 5 years of age, when the primary cause is protein energy malnutrition as such. Then there is a second part to it, which is the secondary protein energy malnutrition. So in this case, need for growth is greater than that can be supplied. Meaning again, whatever amount of nutrients is required. After a few slides, we will also be seeing a chart which basically mentions if this much amount of protein should be consumed in the diet. So whatever is needed, even that is not supplied. And another part to it, even if you are consuming, your genetic makeup or your predisposed your genes are predisposed in such a way that there is decreased nutrient absorption. For example, your intestinal, the child might be suffering from diarrhea or certain intestinal disorder due to which the nutrients which should be absorbed from the intestine are not being absorbed, and because of this, the child is suffering from a deficiency of protein in the body. So for this, what can be done is increase the nutrient amount in the diet. Other than that, if the diet nutrients are not increased, there will be loss in linear growth, or you can simply say linear growth will cease, meaning there will be no increase in height of the child, the weight of the child will not increase. We have also talked about different anthropometric parameters such as BMI. All those parameters will also suffer, like the BMI will be again, the child will not be having a normal BMI, right? Again, static weight, because there is loss of growth or there is no growth seen in the child, weight is going to remain constant, and after a particular point, what will happen? Severe weight loss will be observed because whatever fat cells were stored will start being utilized. Other than this, wasting is one of the major symptoms associated with protein energy malnutrition. Like I said, once wasting is observed, you can classify the child under a malnutrition, and its different signs can be observed. So this was about the etiology of PEM. Now we'll move on to prevalence, right? So like I said, PEM or protein energy malnutrition will basically occur if there is lack of food. Now, lack of food mainly occurs in areas where there is poverty or the people are not quite well educated. Other than this, natural causes can also lead to lack of food. Affordability issues can arise due to these natural calamities. For example, if there is a massive famine in a particular area, or there are drought-like conditions, excessive rainfall or flooding, which leads to loss in the croplands or losses in the croplands or agricultural areas, right? So all this can basically lead to conditions which give rise to deficiency of food, and this is one of the major causes of infant mortality and morbidity worldwide. So protein energy malnutrition, like we can see the stats over here, protein energy malnutrition causes about 0.46% of death, caused rather 0.46% of all the deaths worldwide in 2002, and on an average there are 42 deaths per million people per year. So you can see this deficiency disorder is quite common in younger children. 42 deaths per million people is a huge amount. Right, so we move on to the clinical features of this disease. Before that, in prevalence, PEM is mainly common in your developing countries. When we talk about developing countries, it is very common in the African continent. It is also common, rather quite prevalent even in the Indian subcontinent, South America, also in North America, European countries. The prevalence of this disease is quite less, but still there you can talk about, in those countries, we are not talking about PEM, we basically talk about different problems such as overnutrition, obesity. But in specific, when we talk about specifically prevalence of PEM in the southeast or the Indian subcontinent, we can talk about India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan. All these countries, the rate of PEM is still quite high, which needs to be controlled. We move on to the clinical features or the symptoms of this disease. So after watching this part of the video, we should understand, or we should basically be able to differentiate between Kwashiorkor, marasmus, which are the two disorders associated with PEM. Other than this, we should also be able to identify intermediate stage, that is the Kwashiorkor marasmus as such. Like I said, we will be talking about specific symptoms which are seen in these three cases. Right. So the clinical presentation of which type of PEN you are suffering will basically be dependent upon the type, severity, and duration of dietary insufficiencies or deficiencies as such. So there are basic 5 forms. First one is Kwashiorkor, second one is marasmic Kwashiorkor, third one is marasmus, fourth one is nutritional dwarfing, and fifth one is underweight child. Very quickly I'll tell you what is nutritional dwarfing. Dwarfing is basically there is no increase in length or height of a particular child. So the height remains quite less. Then the fifth point is underweight child, that is growth retardation due to growth retardation. The weight of the child will not increase as expected, or which is ideal for a particular age. So these two diseases will not be talking about in detail, but the remaining three, that is Kwashiorkor, marasmus and marasmic Kwashiorkor, will be seeing the symptoms in detail. Right, like I said, classification of PEM according to the World Health Organization is given here. So, if a child is suffering from Kwashiorkor, then the body weight percentage standard should be between 60 to 80. Edema, that is swelling, should be present in case of Kwashiorkor, and deficiency in weight for height ratio should also be seen. Right? How to calculate deficit for weight and height we have already seen in the anthropometric measurements calculation in our previous lectures. Right? If there is an intermediate stage, then this body weight as percentage standard increases, that is, it is always greater than 60. In marasmus also it is same, it is greater than 60. Nutritional dwarfing and underweight child, for nutritional dwarfing it is greater than 60, whereas for underweight child it is between 60 to 80. See, when we talk about edema or swelling as such, or whenever we talk about edema, we are talking about fluid or water retention in the body. So a lot of water is being retained, which gives a fat-like appearance. So this water retention is mainly going to be present when Kwashiorkor is present. So if you can see this chart, mainly wherever Kwashiorkor is there, be it Kwashiorkor at intermediate stage, you can see a positive sign, whereas edema is absent in case of nutritional dwarfing, marasmus, as well as underweight child. Deficit in weight is seen in all 4 forms, that is Kwashiorkor, marasmic Kwashiorkor, marasmus, as well as underweight child. But in nutritional dwarfing, this particular point is missing. Right. So we move on to actually what is Kwashiorkor and its symptoms as such. So whenever we are talking about the term Kwashiorkor, it is derived from the GA language from a South African country of Ghana, which basically means the sickness of weaning, that is not getting proper food. So Williams was the scientist who basically used or coined this particular term, and he used this term for the first time in the year 1933. It basically, the gist of this term basically refers to the inadequate protein intake, which is quite less than the reasonable caloric or the energy intake. So whenever we are talking about energy, you all know that the measure, whenever we talk about energy, we talk about energy in terms of calories or joules, right? So calories basically refers to whatever essential amount of calories should be consumed, उससे तो हमेशा कम ही calories intake की जाएगी, right? In Kwashiorkor, like I said, the second major feature is fluid retention or water retention in the body, which is edema or edema, right? Which gives a swelling-like appearance. Other than this, the skin of the child becomes very dry. The skin can be peeled off, or you can see a peeling-like skin. This is psoriasis के अंदर होता है. The skin can be peeled off very easily. And the last feature of Kwashiorkor is there is hair discoloration. So the child may appear to have white-colored hair as such. Other than this, Kwashiorkor is also called as wet protein energy malnutrition. Because in case of Kwashiorkor, there is direct deficiency of proteins in the body. And whichever form of PEM is characterized by, when we talk about Kwashiorkor to be specific, it is mainly characterized by protein deficiency. This condition usually appears at the age of about 12 months, that is 1 year. Mainly in cases where Kwashiorkor may also appear if breastfeeding or lactation is suddenly discontinued or it can also develop at any time during child's formative years. Formative years meaning period between 0 to 5 years as such. So during developing stage, the child, if there is deficiency or a deficit of protein in the diet, may suffer from kwashiorkor. Like I said, this was thought to be caused by insufficient protein consumption. There is sufficient calorie intake, meaning carbohydrates, fats, lipids, they are being consumed in proper amounts. We are talking about specific protein deficiency as such, and this specific sufficient calorie intake basically distinguishes kwashiorkor from marasmus as such. Other than this, more recently, micronutrients, that is different minerals such as iron, copper, calcium, which also need to be consumed, and antioxidant deficiencies are also known to have contributed to the occurrence or prevalence of kwashiorkor in children. Okay. Other than this, because of such deficiency or protein deficiency, children or victims of this particular deficiency disorder, they do not produce antibodies, and if they are not producing antibodies against a particular disease, they are going to suffer from your bacterial infections such as diphtheria or typhoid, right? And due to this, there may be occurrence of diarrhea as well. Because of diphtheria, typhoid, diarrhea may also be included, and due to this, the child will become even more weaker due to these secondary infections caused by kwashiorkor, and this is one of the leading factors to death or mortality in cases of kwashiorkor as such, right? So it can be treated by adding food, energy and protein to the diet. Also, it can have long-term impact on child's physical and mental development. Obviously, if during the formative years proper nutrients are not supplied, the child may basically suffer from not only physical abnormalities but abnormalities as in retardation, but also the mental development may be hampered. And even after such diseases, the child weakness in the child kwashiorkor is not treated, it may lead to death of that particular child as well. We move to the major part, which basically associated with the clinical manifestations of this particular disease are the symptoms. First and foremost, there is going to be change in skin pigment, meaning the skin will start to appear, instead of appearing very fresh and soothing, it will appear quite pale in color. There is going to be a decreased muscle mass. Like I said, due to proteins, muscle loss will be seen. Then there will be diarrhea associated with this. Again, there is going to be failure to gain weight and grow. Because of this, there is going to be fatigue-like condition. Again, hair will change. So there is not only going to be discoloration of hair, but the hair will appear very sparse and needle-like in structure. In the diagram, you will see how the hair appear as well, right? So the texture of hair will change, increase and more severe infections due to damaged immune system. Like I said, no antibody production will make your body or make the child's body more susceptible to bacterial infections such as cholera, or you can say typhoid as such, diphtheria as well. Other than this, the child will be very irritable. One of the major features for identifying or the one symptoms is going to be a large belly which sticks out or protrudes out. So if you can see edema, or you can say wasting of muscles in hand and a large belly, protruding belly, you can say that the child is suffering from protein energy malnutrition as such. The child is very lethargic or lazy, that is again irritable, lazy. Then again the point is repeated, that is there is going to be severe muscle mass loss, then dermatitis or rashes. In later stages, the child may also suffer from shock and swelling. Like you can see, this is a child suffering from kwashiorkor. The hair, if you see, is very sparse, straight, pluckable, that is easily removed. The eyes, you can see, are usually puffy because of water retention. The shape of the face has changed, it has got a moon face. The child may also suffer from misery, anorexia, that is anemia, does not feel like eating. If you see the arms of the child, the upper arm have been wasted, whereas the stomach is, or the belly is protruding. Again, in the lower arm you can see water retention. So upper arm is wasted, lower arm is swelled, or lower extremities, even if you see the lower part of the legs, there is edema of the lower arms and legs. Lower trunk is also showing swelling. They have skin rashes also. You can see there is development of skin rashes, depigmentation of skin. There are ulcers which are found on the lower limb as well. So this is all about your Kwashiorkor. We move on to our second disease, which is marasmus. So when we talk about marasmus, marasmus was derived from the Greek word marasmus. It basically means to wither or to waste, meaning stretch. Marasmus is again very severe. Kwashiorkor is treatable. Marasmus is a very severe form of protein energy malnutrition. Other than protein deficiency, it is characterized by severe energy deficiency and emaciation. Emaciation meaning loss of flesh or muscles of the body. Now, because of this severity or this being a chronic disorder, not only protein, other forms of food, because of not being consumed or very prolonged starvation periods, this condition may arise. Right? Like I said, primarily caused by energy deficiency, that is, there is going to be no consumption of either carbohydrates, fats, vitamins in the diet. The food is only going to be consumed, so there is going to be a energy deficiency as such. So whenever this marasmus, it is characterized by stunted growth or wasting of muscles and tissues. Usually develops in younger children. Kwashiorkor goes up to 5 years of age, but marasmus is basically seen in children from 6 months to 1 year as such. It is also very common in children who have been weaned from breast milk or who are in the early period, that is 1 year, they are not fed with breast milk as such. And they also suffer from, due to this again, antibody production is hampered and they suffer from chronic diarrhea as well. We move on to the symptoms. The first symptom is severe growth retardation. That is, there is going to be no development of height as well as weight of the child. The major second symptom is loss of subcutaneous fat, meaning whatever fat or adipose tissue is going to be present between the bones or the skin, that is absent. So due to this, the child looks very thin or very appealingly thin, and the limbs appear as skin and bones. That is, you can, from the skin itself, the bones are visible. We will see this particular figure in our next particular slide. Next is shriveled body. That is a very small body. The skin is wrinkled, and this particular condition can also give rise to a number of vitamin deficiencies as well. Again, there is failure to thrive. That is, the child is going to be very irritable, fretful. He may or she may suffer from apathy as well. Then, due to continuous weakness, the child may suffer from frequent watery diarrhea, may have acidic stools as well. They are very hungry, but at some time, because of prolonged period of hunger, they may turn anorexic as well. These children are highly dehydrated. The temperature, if you measure the temperature as well, it is subnormal. They have a bony prominence, like I said, because of subcutaneous fat being absent. The bones of the child is going to be very prominent, as well as severe muscle wasting is also going to be observed. If any muscles are present, they are going to be very weak. Certain parts may show swelling, whereas fatty infiltrations are going to be completely absent. So this is a child suffering from your marasmus. Like you can see, the hands of the child shows severe muscle wasting. Even the legs, they are showing wasting. That is, there is no fat present. Stretching of the muscles can be seen. Bony prominence, you can see the ribcage or the bones directly. We move on to the third stage, that is marasmic Kwashiorkor. This is a very chronic stage because the child is suffering from not only one but both the disorders. That is a very severe stage, that is the child suffering from both marasmus and Kwashiorkor at the same time. So certain features of Kwashiorkor, such as edema of feet, that is swelling in case of legs, hands, lower arms, abdomen and face is seen. The skin is also very pale in color, the hair is white, and the child will always seem very irritable or unhappy. Along with this, लोअर आर्म में आपको स्वेलिंग दिख रही है, अपर आर्म में अगर मरासमस है तो आपको क्या दिखेगी, वेस्टिंग दिखेगी. शोल्डर्स एंड चेस्ट के यहाँ पे आपको देयर विल बी लॉस ऑफ सबक्यूटेनियस फैट, एंड लाइक यू कैन सी you can also see the ribs of the patient. So here you can see the discoloration of hair, edema or swelling in the lower abdomen. If you see the hands or the lower extremities, again there you can see swelling. Legs के अंदर feet के यहाँ पे you can see swelling. Whereas the upper part of the body, that is the arm, again it is showing features of marasmus, that is wasting is seen. The rib cage is easily visible. So the child is suffering from an intermediate stage, that is marasmic Koshika. We move on to the last part, that is the treatment and prevention, which can be applied for treating PEM. So after watching this video, we should be able to talk about what are the preventive measures for PEM as such. Right. So treatment is again divided into 3 stages. First, resolving life-threatening condition, meaning if the child is suffering from a major disorder, a very chronic stage, first you need to treat in such a way that life-threatening causes are reverted, and then slowly and steadily you can go to restoring the nutritional status of that particular child. So for doing this, you have to ensure nutritional rehabilitation, and basically there are going to be 3 stages of treatment. So first stage is hospital treatment. So in case of extreme severe cases where the child is suffering from marasmus as well as kwashiorkor, the child should be immediately admitted to a hospital, and if there is hypothermia, hypoglycemia meaning subnormal body temperature or drop in body temperature, hypoglycemia meaning low sugar, or any infection as such, it should be treated immediately. Other than this, if the child is suffering from dehydration, he should be or electrolytic imbalance, they should be continuously fed with ORS solutions, or saline should be saline suspension, or through IVs should be used to treat these children. If anemia is there, again vitamin supplements or zinc supplements should be provided to these children. If any other vitamin deficiency or mineral deficiency is pursuing, this should be treated as the first case. Then after the child has been treated, life-threatening conditions have been avoided, then the next stage is basically dietary management. Dietary management यानी क्या? Whatever locally available food is there, that should be included in the child's diet. Now because of local availability, what will happen? The food will be inexpensive due to this inexpensive nature of food also being locally available. It should be easily digestible, because again the child is going to be very weak, right? So easily digested food. These meals should be distributed throughout the day. So it is not like you are feeding the child once a day. Proper timing. For example, breakfast should be given, then lunch, then after that supper, dinner. So in this way, proper distribution throughout the day will be included in your dietary management as well. Other than this, you have to increase the number of feedings to basically increase the quantity of food which is being consumed by the child. So dietary management includes all these strategies. The third state is very important again, which is rehabilitation. So the concept of nutritional rehabilitation is basically giving practical knowledge to mothers rather than treating the child in a hospital or anywhere else as such, or schools as such. So in this case, what is done? The mothers who are prevalent or who are staying in the areas which are prevalent to malnutrition, they are trained or they are provided knowledge. If you feed your child with proper amount of food, or what should be, what components, what vegetables, what grains, cereals should be included in the diet, so your child does not suffer from PEM. So mothers are basically provided with training. They also learn by feeding their children back to health under supervision and using local food. Right? So many NGOs, government schemes, they basically provide with packets of food which should be given to your child at proper times. So this is all directly being explained to the mothers of these children or any family member who is going to be responsible for the feeding of that particular child as such. So this is included in the rehabilitation strategy. Now we move on to the prevention scheme. So like the saying goes that prevention is always better than cure. So many a times to prevent malnutrition, number of strategies or number of steps can be adopted. First and foremost, if there is an area where PEM is quite prevalent, that is most of the children in that area are suffering, the government basically tries to promote breastfeeding, also tries to develop a low-cost weaning strategy, nutritional education and promotion of correct feeding practices. So, number of seminars, or you can say, are being conducted nowadays to basically make people of such area aware about causation of malnutrition and how it can be prevented. Again, they are also provided with family planning strategies and why there should be enough space or even enough time between two consecutive pregnancies, or spacing between births is also being taught to such women. So prevention basically also includes different immunization schemes, such as immunizing the child against diphtheria or cholera to children who are very prevalent to protein energy malnutrition as such. Because there is going to be deficiency of food in their body, antibodies will not be produced, so external vaccination is a very essential step. Other than this, food fortification should also be carried out. Food fortification includes fortifying food not only at home but at midday meals also, which are being provided in schools, so that the food can be fortified with different vitamins such as vitamin A, vitamin K. Iodized salt should be used. Other than that, zinc fortification, iron fortification should also be carried out. Best strategy to prevent is early diagnosis. As soon as the child has been diagnosed with PEM, either marasmus or Kwashiorkor, immediate treatment or rehabilitation of the child should take place so that chronic cases can be prevented and death can also be prevented in such cases. So this was all about preventive strategies. Other than this, whatever different government schemes have been employed, which come into play every year, different NGOs participating in preventing malnutrition as such, so they should also be observed. We move on to the student assignment. You have to solve these two questions, that is, explain what are the symptoms associated with Kwashiorkor in detail. The next question being, explain what is Kwashiorkor marasmus or intermediate stage in brief. You can upload your assignment on your Google Classroom, or you can mail it to me on my email ID, which has been mentioned on the screen. We move on to the summary. So in today's lecture, we talked about etiology, that is the primary protein energy malnutrition, secondary protein energy malnutrition, how can it be prevented, where or which areas in the world are associated or where is this disease prevalent as such. Then we talked about the symptoms of Kwashiorkor, marasmus, the symptoms of the intermediate stage as well, right? We also talked about the different treatment and prevention strategies which can be included to cure the children associated with these diseases. In our next lecture, we will be mainly talking about another nutritional classification or a nutritional problem, which is vitamin A deficiency. Vitamin A basically refers to retinol deficiency. This is one of the major causes of night blindness or blindness in young children. One very important or one silver lining to this blindness is preventable. That is, you can prevent blindness in young children if this deficiency is cured or detected very early in treatment or diagnosis. So, in your next lecture, we will be mainly talking about what are the different causes, implications of vitamin A deficiency, what are the clinical manifestations, symptoms, again prevention and treatment associated with this particular vitamin A deficiency and disorder. So, this is all from my side. Thank you so much.